Hey, everybody, how are you today? Big question for you. So often people ask that question, and really we get a standard response of fine, good, great, and we go on to the next question. But I'm asking you, and I want to know how you're doing. And you can write your responses below here. You can share with me, you can call me up and be a part of another conversation that I have with a stranger. It's so interesting that something so simple as how are you, we don't even take the time to deal with. Today, I have the luxury of meeting somebody with you for the first time. And she may be frozen because when I look at her picture, it seems like it's frozen. No, there she comes. I see her now. Her name is Sakshi Bansal. I have no idea who Sakshi Bansal is. Somehow I think that she was introduced to me by another person who was a stranger in this room, but I can't even be sure of that because I'm getting older and my memory fades. But it is an honor and privilege to have this lovely lady, Sakshi Bansal, with us. Sakshi, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. How are you?
I am better now.
Better now than what?
Better now than a week ago.
So it
Yeah.
leads me to you lobbed over what was happening a week ago that made you not as good as you are now.
I have to start by saying you were correct when you introduced. You were correct when you said people would give standard response like, okay, fine. Their tone might suggest something, but because you're a stranger and because I don't think there is any judgment, I just said better now because I knew it will be intriguing. I think what was happening last week, and in terms of a little bit of context, I am from India, so I'm brown, very proudly, and from India. And I moved to the UK a couple of years ago, so in 2018, and I moved for my master's. Don't know anybody in the UK, didn't know anybody then, don't know anybody now. And I found a job in London. I was living in a beautiful house near the river, which always calms me down. And last month, I found out that because of all the mold in the room, because of all the bad living situations, I was having a lot of breathing problems. And some new flatmate moved in, and it was a whole bunch of issues and different things going on. And it just led me into a very weird mindset, when I moved to the UK, I thought because I'm so independent, because I'm used to being on my own, I'll do just fine. But I did not realize how much I'll miss the sun and how much I'll miss having people around. So I was in a bad place when I moved to the UK, and last month I felt like I'm slipping back into that zone
Wow.
of not feeling okay, of missing constantly. So and I lost a lot of family members within a week, um, 4 family members within a week, and
Wow.
they're obviously far away from me. um, but I think over the last week I've learned so much about section 21, which is a tenancy agreement laws in the UK. I have learned so much about calling and asking for help and not being afraid. And then I've also learned so much about just changing your space. So I've moved into a new house. It's beautiful. I'm building it up, my room bit by bit. And it's as I'm building it up, I'm getting better and I'm
Beautiful.
feeling energetic and I'm feeling okay. And I feel like last time to get to a stage where I felt okay took me a year, and this time it took me a month.
Wow.
So I guess
Wow.
it's
Wow. What a beautiful answer. And thank you for being so open and vulnerable and real with us. I mean, here we are. I don't know Sakshi. I know her all of about 4 minutes now. And for her to feel comfortable enough and honest enough to be able to share something that real, I want to honor you and respect you for being that type of person. Sakshi, what's important to you?
I think I know, I think courage is important to me.
Courage. Tell me more.
And
What does that mean?
I've always, it's funny, and it almost comes back to what we are doing today, just talking as strangers. I think the reason why I jumped on this, the reason why I even liked your photo on Instagram. So you interviewed Mallory and you spoke with her, and she's a
Yes.
lovely, lovely friend. And I saw it, I went on your profile, I liked it, and that's when you asked me. And I think what spoke to me about this was I used to do this a lot.
Hmm.
So when I was in India, I would go and travel alone. And I did 29 trips alone.
Wow.
And I was traveling since I was 17. I'm 22 now. I was traveling since I was 17, and my parents didn't know.
What do you mean your
And I was
parents didn't know?
my parents didn't know that I'm traveling alone, or
Wow.
you know, yeah, they would get worried and they wouldn't let me do it. And I was traveling in India at a time where nobody was traveling alone, let alone a girl, given how unsafe it was. And I always used to do this, I would go alone and find people from all over the world and just talk. And I've always felt more comfortable with strangers
Hmm.
simply because I know that we might not meet tomorrow, or we don't have to take a topic at length, but I could just pour out and listen at the same time. So I think I did this a lot and I missed it. And I terribly, terribly missed sitting at a riverside somewhere in India and talking to a complete stranger. And we wouldn't even exchange names. We wouldn't exchange basic information, right? What you exchange generally.
Wow.
But we would talk about a lot of desires, a lot of fears, a lot of incidents. So I think that was the most courageous thing that I've done, all those 29 trips. And I think this is the biggest part of it, talking to strangers, being open, being vulnerable. I think, yeah, being courageous is very important for me.
I love that. It reminds me of a story of a friend that I used to know some years back. And she was from a very restricted family. They were Orthodox Muslim, and they
Yeah.
were and she couldn't share with them. She was developing into a woman and going through a lot of things that she would go through, and she couldn't share that with them. So she started to write in a journal. But her mother sensed, or her father sensed, that she was doing that, and they searched her room and found her journal, and violated her trust, and beat her and punished her and yelled at her for the thoughts that she was having. And yet the journal was such an important part of her life. What
Yeah.
she would do is
Yeah.
she would write in her journal, and then she would take it and put it on a park bench in a park a few miles away from where she lived, and just leave her most sacred, intimate thoughts on that park bench, um,
Oh,
to see what happened. And she
yeah.
came back the next day and the journal was gone. And then she came back the day after that and the journal was back, and someone else had written in their thoughts. And now she was reading their thoughts of her thoughts. And so she did it again and then put it on another park bench. And she had this journal filled with stories of people that nobody could tell to people close to themselves, but could write in a journal and leave on a park's bench. And I wanted to make a movie with her about that, because I thought how fascinating that story would be. But she
Oh,
wasn't ready to do it, and it wasn't mine to do because it was her story. But
yeah.
as I hear you speak, why do you think it is that we're more comfortable talking to people we don't know than people we do know?
I just feel a sense of calm, I feel that you don't know me, and it is a beautiful, you only have it once, right? When somebody doesn't know you, after 4 minutes they know you. So I think for me, the things I remember the most is how you first interacted. So I remember I was sitting on the bank of river Ganga, which is the most holy river body.
Yes,
It was Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day, and I was in a beautiful place called Varanasi. That city has my heart, my mind, my everything.
mine too,
And
by the way.
Oh, really? Have you been?
I love Varanasi, my favorite place in India.
It's it's such a paradox. That
Yes,
city, everything on one river bank, from birth to death, from traditional to modern to
yeah,
10 languages to Sanskrit, everything in one place.
yeah.
Wow. And the food.
Yes.
So I was sitting on the riverbank. It was Christmas Day, and I met a lady, and so she was sitting on the ghat as well, with the on the stairs, and we just looked at each other. She had really nice tattoos, so I commented. I said, "Nice tattoos," and her name was Hannah. And she approached me. We sat together, and we were just talking about women and choice and freedom and life. And then she showed me a locket she was wearing. She turned that locket around and it had my name on it.
Oh my goodness.
And biggest coincidence in life, because she said her mother came to Varanasi years ago. She got that locket and the artisan must have imprinted their name on the back. And she died, her mother died, and she came back to Varanasi to kind of find that meaning. And there we were sitting together, and then we celebrated the entire night together with like Christmas bonfire. Turns out, years later, she's living right down the road from me in London. She
Oh
has
my
a book,
God.
and she opened an NGO in India, in Varanasi, on my birthday, and it's a whole bunch of incidents with
Wow.
her.
Wow. What a fabulous story.
Yeah, definitely. I think coincidence, and you love Varanasi. I am so glad to hear that.
In a country that's one of my favorite countries, Varanasi is my favorite space in that country. So
Where else have you been in India?
I am a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. So I have followed his pathway through his life. And so I've visited all those places that he's been. So, but I've been south and I've been north. I've been all over. It's been quite a few years now since I went, but I would love to go back. I love that country because in America, we live very protected in boxes. We live in a box, we drive in a box, we work in a box, we talk to a box, which is our computer. We type into a box, and we live life separated from life by boxes.
Yeah.
In India, what I love is that everything happens on the street. That
Yeah.
people make love on the street, they die on the street, they eat on the street, they defecate on the street, they fall asleep on the street, they wake up on the street, and it's just there's no filter for
Yeah.
the life that they live, and you see life. If you can deal with it, you see life just right in front of your eyes. And
Yeah.
it's from someone who's been brought up in a box, it's hard at first, but then the more you embrace it, the more beautiful it becomes. At least for me it did.
Yeah.
Sakshi,
Yeah.
what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Gee, a lot of things. Food makes me really happy. Am I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say anything. This is your time.
Food makes me really happy. Talking to people makes me really happy. Just knowing that there are countries I need to see makes me really happy. Um, Travel obviously is the biggest thing. I think learning more about myself.
Yeah,
You know, every day is every time that I've had such conversations with strangers, they've been beautiful. And I think one of the biggest reason is after that, there is this massive reflection about what just happened with me. You know,
yeah,
um, I did not know that these dots were connected until somebody showed that, or until somebody asked me to think in that way.
yeah.
So beautiful. I think that makes me really happy. Just
uh,
just talking, eating.
I love that. If money weren't important, what would you do?
If money wasn't important, I don't think money is important, is it?
Okay,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love nice things.
right.
I would buy my Rolex, but I don't think it's I still feel like I do things where money isn't important, and and I'm doing those. So I don't have to choose almost.
I love that. I love
It's
that.
it's it's hard to kind of grasp. Um, when I used to travel, I barely had any money because I was still a student. I was still in college, and my parents didn't know, so they couldn't. I couldn't ask them for money, so I would barter. So I would paint graffitis on walls in
Oh wow.
hostels, and I would stay as a barter, and I would make friends with people, and I would get free breakfast, free lunch, free dinner, or just bread and butter would do. So I don't think money was important. But at the same time, when I moved to the UK, it became a thing where I had to earn a certain amount, and I'm earning that, and I'm doing just fine.
So are you a graffiti artist?
I wouldn't call myself an artist. No, I barely scratch the surface of being an artist. I would just do it. I'm not that great, but I
Okay,
paint.
fabulous. So what for people who don't know who you are or what you do, what who are you and what do you do?
I'm a LinkedIn nerd.
You're
That's
say
very
that again.
important.
You're a
I'm
what?
a LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn nerd.
Okay, LinkedIn nerd. Okay.
Yeah, that is very important to know about me. It's the first thing I do when I wake up, last thing I do when I sleep. So uh, I I love talking to people, new people, different people, unique people, ordinary people.
What is it you look to find first thing you wake up on LinkedIn that you go there?
Very interesting question, I have to say, because nobody has ever asked me that. I'm thinking what I do, and I think what I do is I scroll and I look for that one post that gets me out of bed,
Huh.
that one post after which my leg will go down onto the floor and be like, right, start your day. Sometimes it's like some post by Rolls Royce which is about jet engines, and I'm like, world is going so fast, get up and do something. Sometimes it's one of my good connections has posted something interesting and I want to talk to them about it, so I'll get up and do that. Sometimes somebody like you has talked about talking to strangers, a travel or a story, and I'm like, let's do it.
Love
So
that.
it gets me out of bed.
I love that. Let's go to another section that I call the lightning round, but I warn you, I suck at lightning rounds. I'm not very good at it because I get too interested in what people are saying to really move that quickly. But let's try. First question should be fairly easy. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Neither.
Neither. Coffee or tea?
Neither.
Neither. What do you drink?
Yes.
What do you drink?
Gin, wine.
Oh, so you
Uh,
wake up and you have gin and wine in the morning? Like, what do you?
that's the reason. That's the reason I'm.
Okay.
No, I wake up and I drink water and apple cider vinegar.
Oh wow.
But as the day passes by, it becomes gin and wine and somehow
Wow.
whiskey.
Wow. Like I love that. What a surprise about you. You look so innocent and pure. And now you're having gin and wine and whiskey. I love that.
Do you think innocence has to do something with drinking?
Yes, absolutely. Whiskey? I do. Um, milkshake or smoothie?
Milkshake.
Wow. Okay. Junk food or organic?
Junk.
Wow. Okay. Um, exercise or no exercise?
Exercise.
Weights or cardio?
Wait. I'm
Wow.
surprised at myself.
Yeah, I am too. Listen to you. Would you consider yourself someone who is in the box or someone who's out of the box?
Not in a box.
Not in the box.
Never.
Both of these, I think, are super important. But I'd be interested to know what's important for you in these moments of time, not just this moment, but in this period of time right now. Is it more important for you to be able to stand up and speak your voice and be heard? Or is it more important for you to create a platform for other people to speak and for you to listen to what they're saying?
I think for other people to speak and me to listen.
Wow.
Definitely.
So part of the reason I created this whole series of shows, which is really interesting, just a side note, is because I felt like it was really important that everybody has a voice and needed their voice to be heard. But I can't tell you how
Yeah.
many people answer the second one of those things rather than the first. That it's more
Yeah.
important for them to be able to listen to other people rather than to speak their voice. So it really has surprised me because my original starting thought of this was I want to give people a chance and a platform for them to speak. So it's interesting to me how many people reply that way.
I
Have you
agree.
felt like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just talking about an experience that I had, and it was exactly like you mentioned. I started with an idea that people probably want to talk and they need a space. So if you're interested in a bit of context there,
Sure.
India has, so I'm a psychologist. I do psychometrics and I'm a consultant. India has this wide community of psychologists, and all of us have similar stories of nobody likes psychology in India, nobody thinks it's serious, whatnot, and everybody has a very similar struggle. So when I moved to the UK, I thought and I realized that networking here is great, right? You go to a pub, you drink some beers, and you network with people. It's very open. You can give them a shout. You can say, I want this help. In India, you have to wear a tie, even if you have to write an email. They're so
Right.
formal, so strict with each other. And I felt like we need to jazz this up a little bit, right? We need to mix some alcohol here. So I started these sessions called Glass Half Full, and basically I said, look, all the psychologists, psychology community in India, sit with me for 30 minutes every Saturday. We're going to drink and we're going to talk about something psychology related. It can be anything. So everybody sits with a drink, that's mandatory, and everybody talks. So there is no panelist, there is no speaker, there is nothing like that. And I genuinely thought that people would love to talk. People had a chance, and they could speak finally without being so formal, and they could be candid. But actually, when I get feedback, everybody says, I love the fact that I could hear somebody else.
Yeah.
And for me, that's confusing because these people talk, right? Our sessions usually go more than 30 minutes. They run into 45 an hour. So they obviously love to talk. But in their feedback, they always say, I love that I could hear somebody else's thoughts.
Yeah.
So very, very similar experience there that I think
And I
would.
love, look how many similarities there are between our lives. And
Mhm.
20 minutes ago, we didn't even know that each other existed, right?
Exactly.
But just in taking the time to sit and hold the space for each other to speak, we already see how much we share in common,
I agree.
right? I would love for people who are listening to take note of that and see that the world we sometimes think is full of strangers is only one conversation away from them being people you share a lot of common with. So let's keep going. Um, do you feel like you fit into the world, or have you always felt a little different?
I don't want to fit in, but I do.
Okay, tell me about that. What does that mean? I don't want. I think that is such a beautiful answer because there are so many people who don't fit in that want to fit in but don't.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
say, I don't want to fit in, but I do. Explain that to me.
It's gonna sound very funny, but I've always wanted to do something more than others. I think it's the Indian blood in me, but always super competitive, always want to do something more than others. And I think that's where I don't fit in comes in, because that's always driving me out of a place. So the reason I kept traveling was I didn't I loved the place, but it never fit, right?
Yeah.
So I kept traveling, I kept looking at new places. So I don't want to fit in because I want to keep looking at new things, new experiences, new houses, new people. But I do fit in because I fit in with people. There are people who who are my life, and they have given me so much. I fit in with them. There are places like Varanasi where you don't have to be from there to fit in. You just fit in naturally.
Yeah.
There are places like my bed. I fit in so comfortably there that all my thoughts, all my best creative moments come in there. I think I fit in there. So as much as I don't want to, so the world keeps me at its toes. I keep looking for new things. That's why I don't want to fit in, but I do, which gives me a sense of safety, security almost.
So when you were
But I like.
traveling and taking all those trips, were you looking for a place where you would fit in? Because you said just now that I went to all these places and I didn't fit, and I saw that I didn't fit in, and I kept
Yeah,
traveling. Were you looking for a place to fit into?
I think I don't. At that moment, no. At that moment, I was traveling just to enjoy what the place has to offer. To
Right.
talk to local people, to see what they eat, to see what they drink. Um,
Looking back now from the place that you're in now, what do you see?
Now, in hindsight, I do feel like maybe I was, because it's funny because home wasn't home for me. So where the place I was brought up in did not fit in at all. It
Hmm.
wasn't me. It was very far off from what I was. So I think that's why I started traveling, to kind of find that place. So for the 10 days that I would be in a place, it would fit perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And then there would be that 10th or the ninth day when I was like, that's it, I'm done. Doesn't fit anymore. So on to the next place.
Wow.
Definitely.
Pretty
Yeah,
insightful
that's it.
for someone who I'm assuming, how old were you when you were traveling?
17, 18.
Yeah, pretty insightful for a 17 or 18-year old. Beautiful. Do you feel like you operate more out of your head or your heart?
Heart.
And do you consider yourself a leader or a follower?
Leader.
So let me ask you, when you look into the world, do you see many leaders?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
Tell me what you see, because then I want to tell you what I see.
Yeah. I I have seen everybody as a leader. So I have seen people who you would not necessarily look and say they are a leader, but I've seen them transform into one when they care about something, or when they're doing something that gives them back a little piece of themselves. Um, I've I've seen my brother become a leader of his career. I've seen my mom become a leader of the household, taking the reins from my dad. I've seen my friends, my my people who surround me become leaders when they find something they care about. So I do think everybody is a leader, but it's a question of asking, have you found something that you care about?
Mhm.
But
So I love that, and what a beautiful, beautiful answer. Let me paint the world that I see, and maybe it's because I'm 65 and I'm walked the plank a few times. When I look in the world, I don't see many leaders. Not anymore. Um, Perhaps the easiest place to look is in American politics, but we can look in a lot of different places. We could look in science, we could look in healthcare, we could look in education, we could look in music, we could look just in women's rights, we could look in men's rights. What I see is people in American politics, at least, without getting caught up on which side of the fence someone's on, because it doesn't really matter. Both sides play the same game. Um, I see people that we elect to be our leaders, people we choose, maybe that we wouldn't choose if we had other choices, but we choose from the people that are available to be who we want to lead. And when they get into the silo of leadership,
Yeah.
I don't see many people question their own silo.
Yeah.
For instance, people who are pro Trump don't seem to have the strength of character to stand up to the things that he doesn't do well and always just blindly support what he who that what he represents to the party, because it's the first time perhaps the party has felt strong in a long time. Anti-Trump people, they have no courage of leadership either, because they don't stand up and say there's certain things the guy has done really well, but there's certain
Mm.
things that he's an embarrassment to us. And so every time he turns a corner, they swing a bat at him and try and hit him, knock him down. And anybody who has anybody would stand up and say, well, hold it, I've done something good. I think about what happened in America around COVID-19, and it might not be that familiar because you're not, we're in America, you're in UK. But his big thought is, I stopped immigration on January 30th from coming in from China. And that was a good thing, and against all the people. And truth of the matter is, that was a good thing. I mean, it probably stopped the disease from spreading. The problem is, from January 31st to April 1st, he didn't do too much. He didn't follow through on that. And so but the anti-Trump people don't say, you know what, that was brilliant, you did that, and you're right, that probably saved us a lot of lives. But then you stopped. Like, why didn't you continue on? Why did you fight us when we were trying to do this? So what I see is a lot of followers in the silos of the places that they're supposed, that we've elected them to lead, but they don't have the strength to go against the momentum of their own silo.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I think I think the way you have used silos and how people don't stand up is great. I think 100% that is the case, especially looking at what's happening around the world, like multiple crises.
Yeah,
Um, Definitely something that none of us have seen before, uh, or thought about. Maybe even the leaders didn't even think about this, right? But again, I always feel like those followers, those people who have an option to stand against him, they just don't care enough.
yeah.
This is not their moment to be a leader.
So I
Probably in
love,
life.
am I correct in assuming, because I love what I think you're saying, which is we only stand to lead when we care enough about something to actually make it important to us.
I agree with that thing so much.
Yeah,
It's I tend to connect it with relationships, right? I think that is something that everybody gets, you know. Um, you will only try hard to change yourself in a relationship when you genuinely care about it. For all other relationships, for your one night stands, you don't care. They're out of the door and they're out of mind, and you're not making a conscious decision of doing anything, right? You're just a follower. You're letting things happen. You go with the flow. But when you genuinely care about something, you put in the effort. You see yourself as a leader. You probably don't call yourself a leader, but you are leading your life, right? You are taking an action. And I think with so many complicated definitions of leadership, we might as well just say it's putting in effort for something that you care about,
yeah.
and it's
So,
enough leader.
so first of all, I love your mind. I love the way you think. I love the way you speak. I love the way you clarify thoughts. It's beautiful. I want to try and tie some pieces together if I can. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with what an overhead projector is? Maybe not. Okay. I thought when I was growing up in school, they had a machine that you sat on a table, and from the bottom up, light shined, and the
Mhm.
image came through a like a pole and a camera that would shoot that light onto a screen in front of it.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what we would do in school is we would take plastic sheets of paper and we would write on them, and the teacher would show us on the overhead projector because it was easier. They didn't have all the things they have now, so they would take this sheet of paper and it was visible on a screen so everybody could see it.
Yeah.
You have an idea roughly of what that is?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to take two plastic sheets from what you said and put
Yeah.
them on this overhead projector if I could, and have you explain to me what you see when you see those.
Yeah.
The first one is the statement we just made. When we care enough about something, we change or we lead or we stand up for that relationship. The
Yeah.
second one is it's easier for me to talk to strangers than it is to people close to me.
Yeah.
Tell me how those two images play together.
Wow. You really picked on it.
Well, it's very interesting to me, right? Because both of them are strong held beliefs that you have.
Yeah. Definitely. I think you saw that correctly. They are very very core to what I am. I think with leadership, I've seen, and I keep coming back to this, but I've seen people actually become leaders when they care something. So one small example is I started I started teaching a lot of underprivileged kids in India. So there's a lot of inequality in education, and I started doing that, and I needed a team, and I went out in a month and I took 30 meetings in 15 days. So it was almost 90 meetings in a month. Um, and I spoke to a lot of volunteers, a lot of over 1,000, 1,600 volunteers.
Wow.
300 of them joined. And I think from those 300, when they joined, some of them simply and honestly joined because, something to do. Some of them genuinely wanted to help, right? But I had both kinds in those 300 people. And over the years, I saw them grow from people who did not know what to do, or who would always come with questions. How are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What's the point? How will it happen? And into the third year, actually coming with things like, let's do this. This is how we are going to do it. This is how it's going to work.
Love it.
Because they started caring about things. And not all of them became leaders for my project. They became leaders for other things, right? So some of them started their own menstrual hygiene startups. Some of them started their own magazines about mental health. It is genuinely about finding what you care
Totally.
for, and you become this leader, and you don't have to call yourself a leader. My mom definitely doesn't call herself a leader, you
Right.
know and most people would see her as somebody who was very into the patriarchal chains of India and Indian marriages. But she's actually a leader. She's been leading what we eat, what three people eat,
Totally.
since we were born, right?
Totally.
So
So let me jump in because I totally get that plastic sheet of paper.
yeah.
Okay, I totally, and I feel it from inside you, and it's beautiful and it's so clear and it resonates with me so much. It's not that I want to understand that better because I understood it from the moment you said it, and I believe it's true.
Yeah.
What I want to do is put your other core value on top of that,
Yeah.
which is it's easier to talk to people I don't care about than people that are close to me that I do care about. Not that you don't care about strangers, of course you do, but you don't care that because they're not going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I can open myself up to that. So, how does the caring for someone close to you not allow you to open up when what you care about allows you to change? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's
I
my,
think it is very, very difficult to answer that. It is very difficult to answer that, Danny. Why do I talk to people? Why am I okay with strangers?
that's not my question.
Yeah.
My
I'm
question
trying
is
to.
more, why are you not okay with people close to you?
I can't ask for help.
You can't ask for help.
It's difficult. It's always been difficult to ask for help.
How come?
Um, I just always had to do things on my own, you know.
How
I
come?
never. I don't think there was anybody. I mean, I had mom and dad growing up, but I barely ever had dinner with them because I was just, you don't get me, all the teenage anger, and I distanced myself, and I'm very good at distancing myself.
Yeah.
So that happened very quickly. It happened with my brother as well. I did not have a relationship with him growing up. So all those decisions about what to study, what to wear, where to go abroad or not were just mine. So it was just me trying to figure out and make my own mistakes. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't give up that for anything. So I think when I'm talking to a stranger, I care, but I know that they don't care,
Well,
right?
you don't know that because you're talking to one right now who does care.
Well, you've started to care, which is beautiful to see, of
No,
course.
I cared from the minute I cared from the moment you responded to my invitation.
That
And
is a beautiful thing to say.
so what I want you to know is, like, part of what I do is I disrupt people's thought processes. And I love that you don't have an answer to the question that I asked you. And it's not important that you answer in this room. What I would love for you to do, because you're brilliant and your mind is brilliant, I would like for you to not allow your mind to turn on you. And I would like your mind and your heart to come together and answer that question in the privacy of your own moments, of what is it about being close to somebody that's so hard for you to be close to somebody. Because what I see in you when I'm talking to you is I see this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful heart that wants what everybody else in the world wants. It wants to be loved and accepted. It wants to be listened to and heard. It wants to be acknowledged and validated. And when I feel like, I don't know, I'm just an old fat guy sitting in California. What do I know? Okay. But when I feel into the relationship of your mom and dad, they love you so much, even with all your rebelliousness.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, what about you doesn't allow you to accept the thing that you want more than anything else in the world, which is that love? That's not quickly clearly that's not a question for the lightning round, but it's just what came up, and it's not important that we talk about it here, but it's just something I wanted to leave you with because it felt so strong bubbling up with inside me, because I wrote
Yes,
a book called The Mosaic.
yes,
And
yes.
Mosaic is listening to the pieces that people say and the stories they tell and putting them together, because in the different stories they tell are pieces that make the whole story work or don't work. That isn't what the book's about. The book's just about something totally different, but it's what the practice that I practice in it, which is really beautiful. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I appreciate you
Oh,
letting me.
don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, don't worry about that. I think the fact that you can leave a conversation with something to think about
Yeah,
is a mark of a good conversation.
me too.
Um, and thank you for disrupting the way I think.
I love
That
that.
is so very needed, especially for a 22-year-old who thinks they have the world.
Yeah, but you do. You're a 22-year-old that does have the world. You have capacity to have a big world. And so really it comes down to it's a subset of the question of, are you a leader or a follower, which you answered very quickly, you're a leader. But in the same way that the silos don't have the momentum to stand up to the momentum, the strength to stand up to the momentum of what the silo believes,
Yeah.
my question to you right now in the quiet, not to answer here, is, do you have the strength of character to stand up to the momentum of what you've thought you believed all this time? and be able to change that belief because it doesn't work for you anymore. If it
Yeah.
doesn't work for you anymore, that's the challenge. Okay. That's the real leader. All
I
right.
agree.
Last one in the lightning round. Do you think people are more similar than they are different, or more different than they are similar? Before you answer that, do you see even in your face the change that happened to you right now?
Is there a change?
So you
No,
don't say you don't see it.
I don't see it.
Before I asked that question, there was a softness in your face that hadn't been there. There still is. Look at yourself. Look at yourself, not from your head. Look at yourself from just what you see before you feel exposed and try and cover it up. Let's see if I can find it again. I'll point it to you.
Okay.
But there was a beautiful. We express everything about who we are in the way we are, right? So when we
Yeah.
feel ourselves softening up, our face, everything changes. And I saw
Yeah.
a softening process when you were pondering that question. That was just interesting to me. Anyway, do you think people are more similar than they are different, or more different than they are similar?
I don't think I've met enough people to answer that.
Oh, I think you've met a ton of people.
Is it done enough though? To really say.
What do you think? You don't have to. It's not. We're not testing you on factual evidence. We're just asking you what you believe.
I really don't know. I think everybody's different, but everybody, like you said, everybody wants the same thing, don't they? Everybody ultimately is after the same thing. However, must you express it, or it comes out. So I guess there are. I like this theory of it's called Ekam, or everybody is from the same atom and we are all part of the same atom. So
Yeah.
universality. I think if you look at that, everybody is similar, right? But because we are parts, we are different parts, we are all dissimilar. So I don't know how to answer that. I think
Okay.
I also don't think that's a big question, because who cares if people are similar or not, or
Well,
less or not.
I'll tell you why. For me, it's an important question.
Yeah.
Because in a world where everybody looks at how different we are, because you have brown skin and I have white skin, because you're from India and I'm from America, because you live in the UK and I live in California, because you're a woman and I'm a man, because you're young and I'm old, because you have money and I don't have money, because you practice one religion and I practice another. Um,
Yeah.
because we point out the differences of what we believe, that separates us and creates a false reality to what I believe is the sole reality that exists, which
Yeah.
is we are all united, we are all part of each other, we are all connected. And when we see the similarities like pieces of a mosaic, when some of them just connect corner to corner, that means all of what this piece believes and all of what this piece believes are different,
Yeah.
except the corner of this piece they find connection. And
Yeah.
that connection allows the mosaic to maintain its totality.
Yeah.
And in that small similarity of place, when we see that, suddenly we see a different world than the world we see when we see only our differences. So I believe it makes a huge difference, but that doesn't mean you do it. You don't have to believe like I believe. You have the luxury of believing whatever you choose to believe, right?
I actually think we both said the same thing.
Okay. I love
So
that.
you said that people point out differences so quickly, but they are connected by one thing, and that's enough, because
Yeah.
that changes the big picture in its
Yeah.
totality. Same thing. Who cares if we are similar or not? We are all connected by one thing,
Okay.
and that's enough. That's more than enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh, but I,
Uh,
I think the way you explained it is one of the most beautiful explanations I've heard
thank you.
of
Thank.
this, being connected by a single thread. That's enough.
I love that. Do you think that you say you like to listen to people and create that platform for people to listen? Do you believe that other things besides people speak to us and have voice? Do you believe the environment speaks to us? Do you believe the world itself speaks to us? Do you believe our bodies speak to us? Do you believe our workplaces speak to us?
So much. So much. Oh,
I,
so much.
I love that. So when you look at the world that we're living in right now, there's a lot of trouble spots that are going on. You started out by saying I have brown skin and I'm very proud of it. I happen to love brown skin. I happen to love black skin. I happen to love white skin. But there are a lot of people that don't. And there's a lot of movement now in America at least, with Black Lives Matter or with Brown Lives Matter. Or, you can say anybody, but it's especially important not to say everybody matters, because Black lives do matter right now. It's really important that we know that, right?
Yeah.
We had just a few years ago a Me Too movement where women stood up and said, "We are tired of not mattering and being mistreated the way men treat us." And um, we have now a global pandemic that is getting us to stop in our tracks and pause. What do you think the world's trying to say to us?
Honestly, the world is saying stop, reset, begin again. You know, it is funny you asked that because I was in Shanti Stupa, which were these monuments that were built by the Japanese around the world after the nuclear attacks, and they're monuments of peace, and monks are there, and His Holiness Dalai Lama visits a lot, and I was fortunate enough to stay with some of the monks in the Himalayas for 15 days, and they just took me in. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Nobody's allowed to be there, but they just took me in. I was just a random girl on a motorbike trying to find a place to sleep for the night. They took me in, and every morning at 5 a.m. they get up, they make tea for me, and they give me a lot of teachings. And I remember this so clearly. And they said there's a saying, or there is a prophecy, that Buddhism originated in India and went to Japan. And when it starts coming back to India, the sun will set and there will be multiple calamities across the world and everything will begin again.
Wow.
And since then, there is this idea of a withered tree with a reset clock under it that I wanted to get tattooed on me, but I haven't yet.
Wow.
Um, and I haven't yet, and there's a big reason because I feel like the time is not right. But every day I think that is happening, isn't it? Buddhism is coming back to India. Everybody is suddenly talking about Buddhism in India. You have multiple events that are happening in the Himalayas, and there are natural calamities all across the world. There are man-made calamities, and it is literally the world saying stop, reset, please reset, and begin again. I know COVID is bad. I know people dying is bad, but I think it's where we started. It's survival of the fittest in its most basic cruel form.
Wow. Wow.
Who-
So I love the brilliance of your mind, and I love the way you see the world, and I love the story you just told. What a beautiful story for people to know about, which I don't think many people know about. Do you believe the world is trying to say something to you personally in this moment?
Drink more wine. I think I've grown as a person. Um, I've changed, and then I've changed back, and I have.
Sort of like
I started out.
sort of like Buddhism coming back to India. You're right. No, I'm teasing you.
I think somewhere like that, because I started out as a leader, but not a great leader. I was very autocratic. I was very do as you're told. I will dictate everything, and I became a very flexible. I'm not a leader. I'm just doing what I love. And now I understand what leadership is, and it is investing in other people. And then as a person, I it was a whole cycle of doing what I love, then actually compromising for other people, and I'm back to doing what I love again. And I think my environment, the things that happen with me keep telling me You need to go back to how you were, you need to go back to how you used to think, how you used to say, my mistakes are my mistakes. I don't care if I'm making a mistake. It's fine, you need to go back to being impulsive. And because a lot of times I was told I'm too impulsive and it's not good to be impulsive. But I think the best things in my life came out of being impulsive. And I became so scared in the last year that this year I'm genuinely trying to be impulsive again.
Yep.
And I don't think you would hear anybody say, "Oh, I want to be impulsive again." That never happens. But I think it's reset for me as well. Just go
Yep.
back to how I was.
Well, in the work of innovation that I do in corporations, you can't innovate without taking risks. Risks are impulsive.
Yeah,
And so when you don't take risks, when you're not impulsive, you end up staying in boxes that are very safe and very protected and very stale and very old.
yeah,
And you end up doing the same thing that everybody else is doing and thinking you're doing something great.
yeah,
But there's no innovation there
yeah,
most of the time.
yeah.
Sakshi, you are a beautiful, beautiful human being. And you've shared so much with us already. If you had 2 minutes now to say something to this world that we're living in today, what is it you'd like to say to the world?
I'm not going to pretend like I haven't thought about this before because I have.
Good.
And there are two very clear things that I always say, and I feel like I should say.
Please.
I think one is everything you need, all the resources that you need, they're right there. Like, there is no excuse, there is no saying, I don't have this or that. You have everything you need right there. Just look. And I think second thing is just take the leap, just risk it, be courageous. You don't have to think twice. Not everything you learned is correct, so forget that, and do it. Just
Love it. Love it. If people have become intoxicated with you as I have during this conversation and want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
oh, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. There you go. Okay. Will you be sure to send me your LinkedIn information? And will
Yes.
you be sure to send me a headshot of you so I can put it on the cover of the episode? And
Oh, of course.
these turn around pretty quickly. So if you can
do
do
you,
it when
do
we
you
get
want,
off the phone,
oh, sorry,
do I want what?
do you want a very formal,
I
you
want
know
whatever you send me.
I always ask this, because I want to see what people want to portray. Do you want a
I,
very chilled out?
I want a picture that you feel represents this conversation.
Got it.
Okay. And then that would be beautiful. Sakshi, thank you so much for taking your time and being here with us. For those of you who listen to the show, thank you so much for listening. This is a great episode. And if you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it, please share it around with your friends. Please spread it out on social media. The way anything good grows either comes from someone demanding that it grows from the top or from the people feeling the need for something like this to happen. This not doesn't mean this interview series, but something to happen and they get behind it and they swell. There's a groundswell. What I'm looking for is a groundswell of people who are interested enough. As Sakshi said, when you're interested enough in what happens as a result of meeting a stranger in a strange room and seeing what can come from it, then friendship spreads. We live in a world now of strangers. And when strangers do things, it's very easy to stand up and fight. But when we live in a world of friends, we give a lot of permission for friends to have a lot of belief systems. I'm inviting you to live in a world of friends. I'm inviting you to do just the simple act that I've done of find somebody that you don't know, either online or in person, and reach out to them and just ask them how they're doing and invite them to have a conversation, not with the thought to fix them or change them or help them or make them see something, but just with the simple love of the heart to say, I'm really interested in knowing who you are. And I hope that at one point in time, we will become interested in each other, not because we now know each other, but because we're genuinely interested in knowing how another person thinks and feels. It's my challenge to each of you who are listening. Write me and let me know that you've done it. Write me and let me know why you don't want to do it. It doesn't matter. You do what you do. It's my challenge. Doesn't mean you have to accept my challenge. But it's a challenge that I put out because what I believe is there are no strangers. There are only friendships waiting to happen. And friendships happen by taking the time to take interest in another person and listen to what they have to say. Sakshi, before we go, is there one last thing you want to say?
I think you're beautiful, Danning. I mean, that beard is gorgeous. Come on.
I think you're beautiful, Sakshi. And so, how beautiful that we can end like we started with a common thought, because that's my experience of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Those of you listening, thank you. And until the next stranger becomes your friend, be courageous. Do what Sakshi says, be courageous. Reach out and let a stranger become your friend. Until next stranger friend comes into this room, don't be a stranger. Ciao.